How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
If you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can find the live stream, the podcast, the show notes, so much more. We'll be divvying up the interviews from the stage, the gathering. I was going to talk about the gathering right now, but I can't. I got to talk about something else, something a little more pressing. But first, there is some breaking news you need to know. You actually really need to know this. The Israeli government has ordered its military on high alert. The U.S. is expediting reinforcements to the Middle East, including a carrier group and a guided missile submarine. This word coming now. Multiple media outlets have reporting in the last 15 minutes that the Israeli intelligence community's updated assessment is that Iran is poised to strike Israel in a matter of days, probably Wednesday when there's a Jewish holiday would be my guess. Not sure, but that would be my guess. Looks like it'll be a coordinated attack with Hezbollah from the north and through Syria in the northeast and operatives inside Israel. So buckle up. It's going to be interesting as we watch this. I will have more on this later in the show. Right now, I got to talk about something else. It was very notable. Several people attacked me, criticized me, called me suspect for interviewing Mitch McConnell at my gathering in Atlanta on Friday. The man agreed to sit with me, sometimes a critic of his over the last decade or two. And he agreed to sit down with me with no pre-screened questions, no proposed questions on their part, no topic off limits. He did it for 30 minutes live, unedited, on stage. He did not freeze. He did not stammer. He did not lose his train of thought. He is 82 years old. The President of the United States is not capable of doing that, and Mitch McConnell could. And to do so with someone who's been a critic of his. I appreciated it. What's bothersome to me are the number of people who say, well, I must be suspect if that man would sit down with me. Now I'll make myself more suspect to you. I know and like and consider David French a friend. We've known each other for quite a while. I don't know Nancy, his wife, very well, but I do know David. I've certainly prayed for his wife if she's battled cancer. He's a good guy who I like and completely disagree with on politics these days. And I believe we should be friends with people with whom we disagree on things. I think it's actually a sign of poor character when you are incapable of being friends with people with whom you disagree on politics. And I think David has the only thing worse than David's political views these days supporting Kamala Harris is his movie reviews. My gosh. Dude, every bad movie he seems to like. That maybe that's a warning sign. I like David. I just vehemently disagree with him, and I increasingly am convinced that David has allowed his critics to radicalize him. We have a friend who has since passed away, mutual friend, who before he died had called me and asked me just to keep praying for David, that he was concerned that David was allowing the people who hate David to radicalize David in ways opposite them. And I do think when I read his New York Times pieces, oftentimes I think they're somewhat predictable in that whatever the outrage is on the right, David writes in the New York Times to tell them why they're wrong. Or to defend whatever position they're going against. And now David has come out and written a piece in the New York Times saying that he is going to vote for Kamala Harris. He's to stop Donald Trump so that Trumpism burns out of the conservative movement. To save the conservative movement, he's going to vote for Kamala Harris. There's also this organized effort, and it is mostly liberal theologians, I would note, some of whom have masked themselves as conservatives until exposed, who have come out and said they're evangelicals for Kamala Harris. Now, just so you understand, what is happening here is that many of these people are embracing the Flight 93 mentality of the old Michael Anton piece that they all ridiculed in 2016. In 2016, Michael Anton, who worked for Claremont Institute, wrote the now famous piece that essentially this is like the Flight 93 election. We got to grab the steering wheel back from the hijackers and be willing to crash the plane with Donald Trump, hold our nose and vote for a man we all know is as flawed as he is, because we got to save America, just like the people on that plane saved America from that flight crashing into the Capitol building. We got to save America. Vote for Donald Trump. Damn the consequences. It's better him than the other side. And now essentially these guys are all doing this with Kamala Harris. They all mocked the Flight 93 election, and they have, in so many cases, become what they hate. And again, this goes to, I think, what Donald Trump's ultimate superpower is. Donald Trump gets other people to behave in ways that they claim he behaves, and you get other people to behave in ways his supporters behave. They all become each other. A side note here. I know more than you guys about the private things that happened to David French and his family from not just Trump supporters, but from people he went to church with. We got a taste of that ourselves in 2016. I mean, my wife announced to her Bible study that she had an incurable form of stage 4 lung cancer, and had a woman come up to her and tell her she's going to pray for her, but wanted to beat me up for not supporting Trump in 2016. We had people show up at our house to threaten us. My kids got bullied and beat up at school. My daughter was given a guide on how to commit suicide, that maybe I would see the light and support Trump if she killed herself, from kids at our church's school, no less. I understand it. But I don't think you have to radicalize yourself against those people. And oftentimes I think the people who do radicalize themselves in opposition to those who hate them from their own former side don't even realize they've become radicalized themselves. But I think it happens. And I also understand this, and this I don't care if this offends you. Some of the biggest bullies in politics right now are actually Trump supporters. The amount of whiners and bellyachers and nasty people I know on the right who are Trump supporters, I can't tell you the growing number of people I know on the right who say, my problem isn't with Trump, it's with his supporters. I know plenty of people who say this, that it'd be better for Trump to lose, not because they want Kamala Harris, but because they want Trump's supporters to lose. And I work to not have my thinking go there. I get attacked on a daily basis of being insufficiently loyal, of being never Trump. So one of the reasons I put my money where my mouth was with Donald Trump, because I have found that all of these people who lecture me on being insufficiently loyal to Donald Trump haven't given him a penny, and I've given way more than a penny. But I understand the nastiness. I do. I experience it on a regular basis. I have experienced it on my front porch with people. I've experienced it in my kids' lives. I get that. But I also get this. Those conservatives and evangelicals who have decided that they're going to support Kamala Harris because they got to stop Donald Trump, or they got to stop his movement, or they got to punish his supporters, or however they want to frame it. What they're doing is actually giving the left license to not have to change. You can say you're voting for Kamala Harris to stop Donald Trump, but you know how the Harris team is going to interpret that is you're okay with her packing the Supreme Court with a bunch of leftists who will reinstitute Roe v. Wade and worse. You can say you oppose Kamala Harris's policies, but you get her elected, she's going to impose the policies you say you oppose, and you'll say you're fine with it because it wasn't Donald Trump and policies you preferred, but Donald Trump was so bad. The parties aren't going to get your nuance. They're going to get your endorsement. So you can say, I can never vote for a pro-abortion candidate, and you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for a pro-abortion candidate who wants to expand abortion rights. And if the Democrats get the Senate, of course, scrap the filibuster to impose abortion rights across America. Good luck with that. You are becoming exactly what you said you opposed, just in the opposite direction. You are becoming a Flight 93 candidate or voter. There's something else here, too. I have a lot of listeners who don't like Donald Trump and can't bring themselves to vote for him, and they're sitting it out. There will be those who say, well, if you sit it out, you're voting for Kamala Harris. Not really. You know, when I didn't vote for Trump in 2016, I was told I was supporting Hillary Clinton. And guess what? Donald Trump got elected. That's why some of these people who don't like Trump are saying, I'm going to vote for Harris because they really want to stop Trump. I refuse to give a pro-abortion candidate who, along with her vice president, hate churches and would shut down churches. Remember in COVID, Tim Walz shut down churches and left bars open. Tim Walz actually does support legislation to have DFACS, Department of Family and Child Services, take your children from you if you don't support their gender transitions. That's actually what you're voting for. You're not just voting for a candidate. You actually are voting for their policies. You can say, no, I can hold my nose and vote for this person, but that person is interpreting their win as your endorsement of their policies. They really don't care that you don't like their policies. You put them in power. They're not going to say, uh-oh, half the people who voted for me don't actually like my policies. I guess I can't support them or introduce them or push them. No, they're going to seize power, take it, and run with it because of you. There's a smarter play for evangelicals and conservatives who despise Donald Trump. These are narrow elections these days. These are narrow elections. These elections will be decided by about 50,000 to 100,000 people. You want to really decide the election and make a difference? Don't vote for them. Go vote and leave the top line blank. Because then you become a constituency that both sides have to woo. If they know, if Kamala Harris knows you're a Christian who hates Donald Trump, you're a conservative who hates Donald Trump, and you're going to go vote for her to stop Trump, she has no reason to moderate her position because you're a cheap date. You're going to put out for her, doesn't matter what she does. If you refuse to, you become a constituency that's up for grabs. In an election that's going to be decided by 50 to 100,000 people, you become a signature constituency that's in play. So if you view your vote as stewardship, if you steward it towards leaving that line blank or not voting, your vote is up for grabs. Again, I got to remind you of this anecdote. In 2000, Karl Rove realized after that narrow win by 539 votes in Florida that a bunch of evangelicals refused to go vote. And so the Bush White House steered massive number of policies towards showing evangelicals he really was one of them, including PEPFAR. The result is a massive wave of evangelical engagement of 2004, the last time Republicans won a majority of the popular vote. Because Christians opted out of voting, they became a key constituency that both sides knew they could get in play. And the Republicans were better at it than the Democrats because of what they offered. You want to meaningfully transform American politics. You're disgusted by both sides. If you want to meaningfully transform politics, don't vote. Both sides spend inordinate resources trying to persuade people to vote for them because the elections are so close. You want to become one of those groups they have to persuade to vote for them? Sit it out. Then you force both sides to realize, gosh, you know what? Had I not taken these wackadoo positions, I might have been able to win. When you decide preemptively, hey, you know what? I don't like this side. I don't like that guy. I don't like his supporters. I don't like his character. So I'm going to go vote for this person whose values I abhor, whose positions I despise because I got to stop them. You're no better than all the people you dislike. You have become exactly what you dislike. You have become the cheap date that gets taken advantage of by the side you choose to vote for because all you're telling them is that you'll put out for them no matter what they do. You've hoarded your vote to them to stop the other side. You don't have to be the political whore. You can actually sit it out and say, you know what? I despise both sides for different reasons. I'm going to make my vote count by not casting it. And then you become deeply persuasive in the next election as a pool of voters both sides have to figure out how to get. They then have to change their views to get you in the game because in close elections, every vote matters, including yours. Right now, you're telling them your vote doesn't matter. You're willing to throw it to them just because you don't like the other side. Even if you don't like their policies, those policies aren't going to change because you've made it possible for them to acquire power without having to do anything to get your vote other than not being the other side. You've embraced your own Flight 93, and you'll crash the plane too. AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson, oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. I want to go to Luke, who's been sitting patiently by the phone. Luke, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Good. So just a question. I'm a little bit perplexed by this. So I went to Trump's website last week, and I pulled up events, and I saw like one rally scheduled. And like I remember back in 2016 when I would go to his webpage and go under events, you would see like a list of like 50, and there would be some with him and some with just Mike Pence, and then you would have these other like ground game initiatives in these different states to get people involved, like that weren't even really rallies, just like I guess related to ground game. You saw all this extensive schedule, and I go on there now, I see like one event planned. So like I'm just a little bit
I hear your
perplexed.
frustration.
Yeah.
Look. I honestly, I think that I'm a little bit concerned the campaign is completely thrown off its game since Harris got in, and they need more grassroots ground game efforts around the nation. You're right, they don't have them. Trump's done one rally in Montana. He's doing the Elon Musk interview on social media on Twitter tonight. Remember, Ron DeSantis kicked off his campaign on Twitter. The whole platform collapsed. We'll see if that happens tonight. I'm honestly disturbed by the campaign right now. And there are a number of reports out about the campaign and how things are flailing about in the campaign, and that the campaign itself thinks that Donald Trump lacks focus. There are a number of stories from Axios that are well sourced, the New York Times that are very well sourced, about the ongoing behind-the-scenes antics within Trump world right now. And I can tell you that it's reflected in even like the people who listen to this program. The number of people are sending me angry emails for the stuff I'm saying. Like I literally said he deserves a chance to relaunch and reset his campaign. And people are furious with me for not towing a party line. That always suggests people are worried about losing when that sort of stuff happens. Now, look, I don't want you to lose your money right now. And Lord knows, look at the economy right now. Bank collapses and interest rates and everything else. Swiss America has been the trustless leader in precious metals for 40 years. They've been warning people about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the war on cash, you need their free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Swiss America can educate you in protecting your assets in their free report. The Secret War on Cash. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save you your retirement and finances. You get a free copy, completely free, by calling or texting my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. The All-Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency as well. It's spreading. Read the Secret War on Cash report completely free. Just mention Eric when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. SwissAmerica.com/Eric or 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America, and I am delighted to have you with me. The phone number, if you want to be on the program, 877-973-7425. So, we had a little event. It was called The Gathering, and we did it in Atlanta, Georgia. Want to play you some of the audio. We interviewed some great folks: Brian Kemp, Ron DeSantis, Doug Ducey, the former governor of Arizona, Kevin Stitt, the governor of Oklahoma, my buddy Chip Roy. We interviewed Mitch McConnell. It was a great time. Ron DeSantis on stage with me talking about the media and the Harris-Walz campaign.
Now, for the balance of this national campaign, they are going to act as an arm of the Harris-Walz campaign. That's what's going to happen. Look, the corporate media, it's a huge part of the Democratic Party. That's just what it is. And it's interesting because I think about how do you combat it. You know, as a governor was a little easier because I can just go out and do things. And so people would see with their own eyes, well, hey, wait a minute, this guy saved my job. He did that. It's harder just as being a candidate. But I think to myself, the corporate press in this country has never had a lower approval rating amongst Americans than they do now. We have a fragmented media environment where you don't even need to deal with these people. You can get your news other places. And yet, even though the estimation of them is at rock bottom, even though there's so many other outlets, in some respects, these narratives are more powerful today than there ever have been. I think part of it is it's a little bit harder to counter. If they were doing narratives against Reagan in '84, there were like 5 television stations he could put ads, Morning in America, and just fight back. Well, now it's harder to reach people. And so the stuff that gets into the zeitgeist gets there. So it's not easy to do, but ultimately I think if you're standing for what's right, if you're standing for what's true, if you're making the case, there is a desire for truth out there. And this is a great test because they are taking somebody who nobody thought could do the job of president, and they're trying to create a cultural phenomenon around this candidate and around her running mate. And I think the American people are ultimately going to see through that. But make no mistake, I hear some of the Republicans whining about, they don't go after her. Oh, they're not going to do that. Like, just understand, they are not going to do that. They wanted Biden out, not because they didn't like Democrats, it's because they didn't think he could win. So they're now trying to engineer a victory. That's what they want to do. So just be prepared about doing that and go out and fight the good fight.
He's absolutely right on that. And that's part of the issue with Donald Trump this weekend going to Montana for Tim Shee, who is running up there and essentially spending his time talking about Jon Tester being fat. The clock is ticking. We have less than 90 days. Did you know that early voting begins in a month and like 5 days? Early voting begins in the middle of September in Pennsylvania, a must-win swing state. So every minute of every day that Donald Trump is not talking about Kamala Harris's record is a minute that voters are reminded they don't like him. The fact of the matter is, the truth of the matter is, Donald Trump hasn't gained ground. What's happened is his voting share, his percentage is largely stable. It's the Democrats who've come home to Kamala Harris, and the independents are headed in her direction because they don't like Donald Trump. And again, this is so important that everyone understands this. You may like Donald Trump. Pretty consistently, most Americans never have. In 2016, they just hated Hillary Clinton more. So they went with the guy they didn't like, but he was better than Hillary Clinton. Now they know him and they don't like him. They don't know Kamala Harris. And given the choice between someone you really don't like and someone you don't know, you're going to take a chance on someone you don't know. So what the Trump campaign has to do is make Kamala Harris known in a way that benefits them so that she's liked less than Trump. And the way to do that, pretty obviously, is to go after her flip-flops and record, her positions, her radicalism. They haven't been very aggressive on that point. You can't spend your time calling Jon Tester fat on stage because you know that's going to get all the attention. To Ron DeSantis' point, people could go to a variety of places for their attention, but by and large, most people go to ABC, CBS, and NBC and the local news. If you're not on the local news, these voters aren't going to pay attention to you. It's why I still believe he needs to barnstorm the country, say screw the national media, they're the enemy, and focus on local reporters and give interviews to local reporters who are overwhelmingly so much fairer than the national press because they are trusted by their local community. And in a day and age where it's very easy for someone in the local press to lose their job, they want to be as loyal to their viewers as possible, and they maintain the trust and the integrity to keep trust with their viewers, and so they're fair. They may be closet libs. I don't know that most people realize that, in my experience, local reporters tend to be vastly more conservative than national reporters. And that doesn't matter whether you're in Montana or whether you're in Georgia. The local reporters tend to be center right, where the national reporters tend to be center left. A national reporter one time explained it to me that the local reporters who are big libs are just auditioning for the national press. The guys who play it straight, they tend to be happy where they are. There's no ambition there. So that's why Trump should do it. Ron DeSantis is right. The national press is out to get him, but that's not the local press. One more from DeSantis on Walls.
He will give this stump speech, and he says, you know, our neighbors can do what they want. It's none of your damn business what your neighbor's doing. This from the guy that set up a COVID snitch line imploring Minnesotans to tattletale on their neighbors for leaving their house. What, to take the dog, to relieve the dog, walk the dog, or go out and play shoot hoops or something? He wanted you reported to the authorities. That is not minding your own damn business. That is a total abuse of government power. And then he'll say things like, well, these Republicans are weird. This is a guy that used Minnesota tax dollars to put tampons in the boys' bathrooms throughout the schools in Minnesota.
Yes. On point. You know who else was on point, on message, focused on the policies and the positions of the candidates? Governor Brian Kemp.
The Harris campaign has a new ad about how tough on the border she is.
Yeah.
I mean, and how she's going to, hire more border patrol agents, and how, she's going to support this tough border bill. And my thing is like, hey, just remember, you're in office right now. You could do that right now without being elected president if you could talk Biden into doing it. And I remind people, Republican governors have been complaining about the problem at the border for years. We have done press conferences. We've asked for meetings. We put out policy agendas of 10 or 12 things that we could do to secure the border, and we know they will work because they were done, by the previous administration. And you had the governors supporting the Trump administration by sending National Guard troops, and you didn't have the chaos that you saw early in the Biden administration. It finally got so bad they had to do something about it because they were getting killed politically on that issue. And, I remind people, the Democrats had complete control of all three branches in the legislative process, the House, the Senate, and the White House, from 2020 to 2022, when we were all complaining about the border. The Republican governors were, and they did nothing. And that's what people need to remember when they go to the ballot box in November.
Yes. That's the sort of stuff people need to remember when they go to the ballot box. That's the sort of stuff they got to focus on. Now, my buddy Chip Roy, longtime friend of mine, great congressman, one of the most popular, because, as an aside, let me tell you this about Chip Roy. So Chip is a true believer. When he says it, he believes it. And he is very, very much of the right. He's willing to fight Republicans and Democrats to do what's right to rein in the scope of government. And what's remarkable is how the Democrats and Republicans like him. Like, he's a firebrand on TV and on the floor of the Congress, but they like him. And you know why they like him? Because they know he speaks the truth to them. He doesn't lie to them. He treats them kindly behind the scenes, regardless of their views and disagreements. He treats them as a friend, even if he disagrees with them. And they know he's a straight shooter. When Chip says he's going to do something, he does it. When he says he's not going to do something, he doesn't do it. And so he's got the respect. Even as they fight him, they don't like his politics. They treat him as a guy you can trust. He's an honest broker. And I appreciate that about him. He's a good friend of mine. He's willing to fire off an angry text to me and say, hey, you screwed up. I'm willing to do the same to him. We're willing to argue about it. He's just a good guy. And he put the election in defining focus, and it's a way, I think if the Trump campaign can listen to this, he put the defining focus on this campaign from the gathering.
Guys, it is about control. It is about tyranny. It is about telling you what to do in some utopian, radical, progressive Democrat dream that is fiction, that is unicorn energy, but it's all about them being able to tell you how to live. And if Republicans don't wake up and fight that, you're not going to have a country, and your kids and grandkids aren't going to have a country. That's what this election is about. It's not about all the noise. It's not about all the stuff you're seeing in the ads. It's about whether or not you believe in Western civilization and whether or not we're going to save it. That's what's on the ballot this fall.
That's Chip Roy, defining moment there on stage, making the case about this election in ways that people can understand. It's also why there's so much frustration from people on the right about Donald Trump. The number of people who are emailing me who say, is he just trying to lose? Did something happen on stage when he got shot and he's trying to throw the election? I don't think that's it at all. I don't think Donald Trump wants to lose. I think he wants to win. I just think he's been thrown off his game. Listen, if you were shot, if you had a bullet come within half an inch of blowing your brains out, you would be unnerved as well when it processed. Your first reaction would be to raise your fist in the air and say, fight, fight, fight. And in the quiet of the night, when no one's around, your mortality would set in on you. I don't know if he needs a sports psychologist to talk to him or somebody to talk to him, but I just think his head is not in the game right now. It's a traumatic event. You can understand it. It's a traumatic event. I don't think he's trying to lose. I just think if he doesn't change things, he very well could lose, and he doesn't want to, but he's got to get his head back in the game. One more from Chip Roy on stage at the gathering, talking about his frustrations with his fellow Republicans.
Thank you all for being here and supporting Eric. Eric, as he said, we've been good friends now for 2 decades. This is an important gathering. And that's, to me, that this is, there are a number of really important questions right now that we face, but this is one of the most important. And Republicans have for too long been a part of the problem and driving the very things that they criticize and campaign against. And I saw that when I was a lawyer on the Judiciary Committee, when I was Ted Cruz's chief of staff. I saw that now in my 5 years in Congress. And with all due respect to our Republican colleagues, people get mad at me when I say this 2 months out from an election. Like, let's be clear. Everybody go vote Republican. Let's get the most conservative candidate you can get elected. But I'm concerned about January 3rd when we get sworn in. I'm concerned about January 20th, 21st when we get down to doing business. And the fact of the matter is, too many Republicans give lip service to wanting to do what Jeb was just talking about, shrinking the size of government, and they won't do it.
Yes, they won't. It's one of the frustrations so many Republicans have. It's one of the frustrations that have caused so many Republicans to gravitate towards Donald Trump as just kind of a bull in the china shop. And I totally understand that. I do. But the problem is, he's got to, in some way, focus so that he can find a message that works. If he doesn't, we're going to have a really hard time beating Harrison Walz in the final 85 days of this campaign. And remember, they get a freebie week next week to brand themselves with the DNC and the love fest the media is going to give them. And I kind of agree with what my caller from Montgomery, Alabama, that maybe he needs to just take the week off, rest, and focus on message discipline with his team and get his head back in the game. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Right now, the BOGO's going on. You buy one, you get one free. You buy 3, you get 3 free. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. It traps the dust. It traps the pollen that's floating in the air, and it wipes out odors. It uses O3 that goes into all the nooks and crannies, all the crevices, grabs hold of the ions so odors are ions, and they float in the air. They go into your nasal passageway, and they have the scent. They trigger a neurological response that is a smell. And what O3 does, ozone, is it locks onto those ions, weighs them down, and they can't float in the air, and it eliminates them. And that's what the Eden Pure Thunderstorm does. So there's no odor. It can't stop. Dirty diaper odors, pet odors, litter box odors, you name it. Right now, you can buy one, you'll get one free. You buy 10, you get 10 free. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. That's the website, EdenPureDeals.com, and you'll see a discount code box right on the front page. You put in Eric Bogo, ERICKBOGO, Eric Bogo, ERICKBOGO at EdenPureDeals.com. You'll buy one, get one free, buy 2, get 2 free, buy 3, get 3 free. You know how it goes. EdenPureDeals.com, the discount code, Eric Bogo. Wikipedia is, it's user driven, so any user can hop in and make changes. What I find very notable is that with all the issues about Tim Walz out there and his military record, someone edited J.D. Vance's record and got rid of his awards in the military. He was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Iraq Campaign Medal, the Navy and Marine Corps Sea Service Deployment Ribbon. And now if you go on his site, on Wikipedia, it says Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. That's it. Intriguing how they scrubbed his awards. But that's the sort of thing that the progressive left tends to do, rewriting the records of people they don't like while ignoring the actual records of people they do like Tim Walz, who had 24 years of service. God bless him for his service. But he lied on his way out the door and decided he wanted to run for political office and bailed on his troops, who he assured them he would be going to Iraq with them, and then decided, nope, not going to going to run for office. That story matters. I do, however, wonder if that story is piercing the conscience of conservatives on social media, but not actually making it out into the real world. Conservatives, I'm deeply worried, and maybe myself included, I'm deeply worried we may be so intrigued by what's happening on Twitter we forget the real world. And Twitter is not the real world, never has been the real world. And one of the last people to find that out very famously was Kamala Harris, when her political campaign crashed and burned because she convinced herself Twitter was the real world. We can't make that mistake. We've got to penetrate the zeitgeist, so to speak, with our messaging.